Welcome to Entrepreneurship at Rowan, an official production of the award-winning Rowan Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. We cover the entrepreneurial pulse of Rowan students, faculty, and alumni. Prepare to be Rowan proud.
Welcome to Season 2 of the Entrepreneurship at Rowan podcast. I'm your host, Joe Sokolowski. I want to know more about the flourishing entrepreneurial ecosystem in and around Rowan today. I'll be joined by a collection of professionals in the entrepreneurial investment space to hear their experience in the field and help you become a better entrepreneur. Today I'll be joined by Ernie Holtzheimer, Managing Director of RIVF, Rowan's $5 million innovative venture fund. Thanks for being with us today, Ernie.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Excited to be here.
So, just to jump right into it, would you be able to share a little bit of the history of RIVF and maybe talk a little bit about why Rowan chose to start the fund in the first place?
Yeah, so RIVF was founded in 2014. The entity was organized in 2014. First investments actually didn't start happening until 2015. The foundation board, in collaboration with President Hushmand and others on campus and the leadership, really thought it was important to invest in those that are researching and developing innovative technologies on campus, whether those are students or faculty, and also to support the Southern New Jersey region. So Rowan being a catalyst towards economic development in South Jersey, we found that it would be important, or it is important, for the university to support growing these types of projects. Yeah. And there's a gap, right? There's Southern New Jersey isn't known for being an investment hub. So starting a foundation-backed venture fund was something that a lot of folks were on board with, or everyone was on board with, I should say, and found it to be an important initiative of the university.
Nice. And I mean, have you seen, being now that you've been with the group for quite some time, have you seen that kind of pay off starting the fund?
Yeah, we have 12 portfolio companies now. We've seen a lot of various companies come through the door, and unfortunately, some didn't get investment from us, but they did benefit from positive or whatever type of criticism you want to say, but some helpful feedback from the process. I know some that didn't get investments from us, but did go on to receive investments from other investors in the area, including notable, investors like Ben Franklin Technology Partners, other angel investment groups that are in the area. Something we'll talk about, I'm sure, a little bit later is Keiretsu Forum, and a lot of our earlier companies that came into the fund were syndicated with Keiretsu Forum and received investments from Keiretsu Forum as well. But again, some did receive investments from Keiretsu and some didn't. So I do think that even though we've only invested in 12 companies in the past 5 or 6 years, we have made a significant impact outside of just those 12 investments.
Now, I know you started off as a student here at Rowan. Could you maybe talk a little bit about your pathway from the student position to the managing director of the fund, and maybe what prompted you to get involved with it?
Yeah, so let's take it all the way back to freshman year. So I'm a South Jersey native. I'm from Deptford, right down the road. Came to Rowan as a biology major, thinking that I wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps to become a dentist. I actually ended up dropping out my sophomore year and opening a restaurant with some friends. And, I use dropout lightly because I always told my parents I was going to go back to college. They didn't believe me. They thought, once I was out, I was out. But that gave me really good business experience. I came back after selling that restaurant, came back to be a student, finished my undergraduate degree in entrepreneurship and business management, a dual major. So I got exposure to venture capital through taking then Professor Kimball Bird's legal and financing aspects of entrepreneurship, something along those lines.
Okay.
And that really got me interested in the venture space. I decided I wanted to go to law school. I went to law school after getting my MBA from Rowan, actually. While in law school, started working with that group I mentioned, Keiretsu Forum, really got involved with them. Their then president, or current president, Howard Lubert, at that time became the managing director of RIVF. And, just being that I was a Rowan alum, interested in the space, got pulled over to assist with RIVF matters. I worked on the screening committee and the advisory committee for 4 years. After that, I was appointed to the board of managers for RIVF. And then, after Howard had departed from the fund was doing a search for a new managing director. And, I threw my hat in the ring and was lucky enough to get chosen.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you were kind of perfect for the job considering your fact that you went to Rowan and your position kind of screening companies. So that's awesome that it was able to get to that point for you. Our audience is primarily the Rowan entrepreneurship community, and many of them are interested in starting and scaling their own ventures. Could you kind of share what kind of investments RIVF looks to make with them?
Yeah, so we look for companies that are scalable. I think that's sort of the baseline investment, threshold, right? Like we don't look for, I was personally a restaurateur, so nothing against opening a restaurant, but that's not really a scalable business, right? Aside from a franchising model or something of that nature. So I can't say flat out we would never look at someone who has a concept for a restaurant, but we're looking more towards, just to give known examples, right? The Ubers of the world, the Facebooks of the world. We're not looking for you to be Facebook or Uber at the moment in time we invest in you, but a company that can grow 10x, 20x, 30x, 40x from the time that we invest. Technology, life sciences. We'll talk about a couple of the portfolio companies. Food and beverage is an area that we've invested in. So just companies that can grow by significant multiples after our investment. I would say that what we really look for beyond sort of that threshold, scalable business is being beyond, I always say this, the business plan on a napkin stage, right? You've done your work, you know who your market is, you've researched the competition, you know what the projected financials are, or at least potential projected financials, you know what IP you have and you know how to protect your IP. Hopefully, maybe you've already protected your IP, you've worked with an attorney to get trademarks, copyrights, patents or provisional patents. And even if you haven't, completely understand that students don't have the kind of money to go out, most students anyway, don't have the kind of money to go out and pay an attorney to file a patent application for them. Mm-hmm. We work with students for that. So just having an idea of what the intellectual property you own is and how to protect that. It's just so you're not going out and, kind of messing up that process, right? Like having a good understanding of that and not giving out your IP to the world before you protect it, right? We want to make sure that IP is protected. So scalable business, coachable founders is really important. Knowing your IP and either protecting it or having a solid plan for how you're going to protect it after you get an investment. Those are I think the big things. So having a really solid team, having good board of advisors. We know that students particularly aren't going to have all of the experience and business acumen that someone who has been in the industry for 30 plus years might have. So we look for groups of students and faculty, others that have a good board of advisors, people that they can rely on to help them fill those gaps as they grow the company.
Yeah. So kind of going off that, like you mentioned, that obviously most of these people that are coming to you are students and most of them are starting teams, but they're often younger teams who are still in college. Is there anything that you look at from that kind of that makes it more approachable to invest, I guess?
So, we're unique in that we are understanding that students are students, right? The fund was formed to help grow student companies, among others. So we're not similar to other venture funds who might see a group of students and not even take a look at them, right? Or particularly at the very early stage. We're talking some students come to us for help and need help just forming an entity or, need help with some very basic, type business development things. So we're different from funds in that nature, but we do look for, students to, again, like I said, have a good understanding of what they need in order to get from where they're at, point A, to where they want to go, point B, right? Whether that's filling in with, a board of advisors, using students for resources and other students from different colleges on campus, I think is, crucial. There are a lot of resources on campus and, things that students can take advantage of that once you graduate, you may not have the opportunity to take advantage of. So I always recommend students do that. But again, we're a little bit different from other venture funds where the door is open for students who don't, have a fully developed concept and aren't, bringing in revenue already. We're more understanding, I would say, of that. At
this point, would you be able to share at all what kind of monetary amounts RIVF looks to make in each group?
Yeah, so right now, our typical check size, first check, is somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000. Most investments that we've made have been within that range. A few have been lower, a few have been higher.
Could you clarify there what kind of size business is that are getting those kind of proceeds?
We are talking about early stage companies, so it depends on the value of the company and what we're getting in exchange for that. $100,000, $200,000, and in some instances, our money isn't exactly going directly into equity right away. If we invest in a convertible note or a safe, then our money isn't going to be equity until it converts in a later round. So it can be a very, very small company, even at the initiation stage, right? Like they have zero revenue. They're still, going out they're waiting for a response on their patent application. They're still developing the technology. Don't have a fully working, even beta yet. So I can't really opine on what the exact size of the company is, because it can vary significantly.
Okay, and I guess that's a good thing for a student to kind of hear that from you, because they I think a ton of them have great ideas, and it's just a matter of getting that traction, and it seems like it's exactly what you guys help to do.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to say is, we're working on a couple of new programs that hopefully we'll be able to roll out later in this year, that I won't get into too much detail on because they're not finalized yet. But I do want to say that we recognize that not every student needs $100,000, right? Some students may need $50,000 or $25,000 or $10,000. We recently partnered with the School of Innovation and Entrepreneurship to start the Seed Opportunity Fund. So, that's a grant program that's going to be giving grants of $500 to $2,500 to students from underrepresented backgrounds and first college candidates in their family, the opportunity to start a company. So I don't want students to hear 100,000 and think, no, there's no way, my company's not even worth 100,000 yet. That's 100% of my equity. I don't want students to balk at that, because we are understanding of that, and we'll work with folks. And hopefully when those programs roll out, will be more, I would say, approachable to students that need just smaller amounts of funding at a very, very early stage.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so kind of going off of this here, could you talk a little bit about some of the companies that RIVF has invested in before, and maybe where they're at today, and some other resources that you've offered to them that helped them get to this place today?
A couple that I do want to talk about are, Arc Aeronautics, Half Day Tonics, a couple others, Fit Degree, a couple others they were students when we invested in them, or in Half Day's case, very recent alumni when we invested in them. So I encourage everyone to actually go out. I'm not going to really get into detail of each company, but Half Day, I think, is a good example. It's a relatable example that everyone knows what, tea is, right? They did pivot. Mike and Kayvon did a great job from when they founded Topos Teas, the Topos Tea brand, while in undergrad. They pivoted that brand into what's now Half Day Tonics, Half Day Tea Tonics. So it's more of a healthy tea than, I think sort of like kombucha-like, but a little bit different. They've done a great job. I mean, we invested in that company in a convertible note round that they did. They have gone above and beyond. I think that round got oversubscribed. They've raised a lot of money into support of their goals. I see them in my local Giant store all the time. I always buy a can or two when I see them there. They're in Giant, Mom's Organic, Thrive Market. GoPuff carries them. So they've done a really good job in a short period of time. They just launched last May, and they've continued to grow. I think their goal is to manufacture over 1.5 million cans this year of their product, roll out a couple of new flavors. So again, they're an example of folks who have taken our money and kind of run with it, and they're doing a really great job. We're excited to see that. Others are examples of companies that we've invested in pre-pandemic. So just a reminder, I got involved as managing director in the middle of the beginning of the pandemic. Wow. So July 1, 2020. So before I got involved, the fund invested in Arc Aeronautics, Tassel, and Fit Degree. Tassel and Fit Degree, I think, were actually the fund's first two investments back in 2015. Student investments, as I'm sure and other students and faculty and others who might listen to this know, they're going to have to pivot at some time, right? And I think the pandemic threw a huge curveball at all of these companies, and ARC was in the middle of going out and doing beta testing with various fire departments. They're a first responder platform. They're still working with those folks, but as you might imagine, the pandemic kind of constrained expenditures on, townships and municipalities aren't able to spend as much money on things that are non-pandemic related as they used to be. So they're still going out trying to raise additional funding. They're still chugging along, doing a great job. Brandon and his team are doing a really good job. Fit Degree, another example of a pandemic impacted company, right? They are a company that provides a SaaS platform for smaller gyms, yoga studios, things of that nature, fitness related. And all of those were shut down during the pandemic, right? So it's hard to go out and sell to that clientele when they're not open. So they did a good job again of pivoting, working with their clients, and working with them to get beyond the pandemic. And now they're on an upward trend of customers again. Tassel, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but sort of a similar situation. They did really good job, 2015 to the pandemic of growing the company. They have a lot of universities, and I'll just say that they're a platform for alumni relations, and they've pivoted a little bit to also handle some payment processing and other functions that are on university campuses. So they've got another great list of clientele. They're working a lot with Penn State. They work with Rowan. They work with other groups or other universities and colleges. They haven't had the opportunity to go out and do what their number one sales push is, which is attend these big college and university conferences, which didn't happen for the past couple of years. So they, stagnated for a little bit, but they're, looking like they're back on track and growing. So I think you just see a trend in all of these examples that even though they were very young companies when we invested in them, they've all taken their money and have had to pivot at some point, but they're all still operational today. And that's something that we're really proud of. All 12 portfolio companies that we have are operational, and that's not something that every fund can say. We haven't had a liquidity event yet in the fund. We're hoping to have one, in the next couple of years, but the fact that all of our companies are operational, I think says something to the credit of the founders and, the grit that comes out of this university and, how they're continuing to push forward.
And I also think that it's really nice to see from the investor or the student investor perspective that there's so many different types of companies that you invest with. So it really you could bring anything to the table. And if there's a scalable business plan there, you could do a lot with it. So I think it's really nice to see that from Rowan.
People would be surprised if you really, I'm sure when I was a student, I had my laser focus on what was happening around me, right? But if you broaden that and look at what's happening across the entire university campus, from students to faculty, there's a lot of entrepreneurial activity happening, and there's some really exciting stuff. I think, the next couple of years, that's going to continue to grow. The university's partnership with Virtua is going to be, a great push for that as well in the life sciences space. I think we're going to see a lot of activity there. But yeah, like you said, there's just a lot in a lot of different areas happening on campus. It's really exciting. If anybody has any questions about the fund, you can look on the foundation's webpage. We have a webpage on there, RIVF. I think you can, the short link is go.rowan.edu/RIVF. So folks can go on there, find my contact information, reach out to me. I'm always happy to chat if folks have questions.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Hopefully some students in the future can utilize this for their own ventures.
Thank you for listening. Rowan is proud to be an official knowledge hub of the International Council for Small Business. Our AACSB award-winning entrepreneurship programs challenge students to solve real problems in bold and impactful ways. If you're interested in supporting entrepreneurship at Rowan or want to get more involved by hiring an intern, speaking to a class, or being featured as a case study, contact us at rcie@rowan.edu.